One of the most significant and successful parts of the Educational Reform Bill of 1993 was the establishment of school councils. Hello, welcome once again to Speaking with the Principal. I'm Ron Stromensky, principal of Wakefield Memorial High School, and it's good to have you along with us. The topic today is the school council, and I'm pleased to have on board today as my guests two of our parent members of the Wakefield High School School Council, beginning with Mr. Ted Crouse. Ted, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
And Ms. Jill Tapper. Jill, welcome.
Good morning.
In the next 15 minutes or so, I hope that we'll be able to share with you the concept of the school council, why parents choose to get involved in it, and why they choose to get involved in it, and what kinds of things go on. And a little bit later on, an opportunity perhaps for you to be involved with the Wakefield High School School Council. Jill, let's start with you for a moment in terms of your involvement with school council. Why did you choose to get involved, and what's the history of it? Were you involved before you came to Wakefield High School?
No, I had never been involved in school council before, but I have been involved in a lot of community programs in the town. And I feel that the town has been good to me, and I've been lucky and healthy, and I feel that there's a certain commitment to pay back. So I had the time, and I was interested. And also, I kind of got an indirect challenge from you before my daughter ever started at the high school. We had some correspondence, and I think you said something to me like, well, I hope you become active in the high school. And I said I will, and I did. So.
Good for you. Mr. Ted Crouse is with us. He's a second-year member, as is Mrs. Tapper of the Wakefield High School School Council. Ted, what are the early originations of your involvement with school council?
Well, when the ed reform came into play a few years ago, I was one of the, I guess you'd call, original council members. Initially, I started as a community representative with the Doyle School, which my daughter had attended in her younger years, and also as part of the sixth grade school council prior to the school becoming a middle school, and kind of been on the school councils since that time. I guess you could say I'm working my way up through the ranks. But I basically feel that the involvement by parents is so important in today's world. I knew when I grew up, I was part of a very large school system where there was not that much parental input. And the way I look at the parental input is more of a great tool of continuous improvement, especially through the councils. And that's kind of how I view the councils, as that continuous improvement vehicle. And in today's society, it's so important, and I hope a lot more people get involved in these types of things.
How do you get involved in the school council is a very legitimate question. Let me hasten to say that the Wakefield High School School Council has 4 parent representatives that are elected through the Parent-Teacher Association. It has nothing to do with the school staff per se, and in fact, Mr. Frank Infanto was just recently elected as a new parent representative, and he'll be joining us at our next meeting. And Frank, if you're viewing us on this program, congratulations to you. We look forward to working with you. Let's talk a little bit about what goes on in the school council. Beyond the parents, and under ed reform, there needs to be a balance of parents and school people. So there are an equal number of school people, including the principal. There is an elected co-chair. And Patricia Doran, who is also a parent, is the co-chair of our school council and does a wonderful job. We also have 2 students, and we, by the way, are looking for a community representative this year, which is perhaps where you come in if you're interested in serving on the school council as a community representative, which means you cannot be a teacher in the school, you cannot be a parent of a student that is currently in the high school, but you are just someone out there who's interested and would represent the community. We meet about once a month, sometimes in subcommittees a little more often, and we want to talk about some of the important things that go on in the council at this point. Ted, let's start with budget. You, I know, have a particular interest in budget. Maybe you could share, as a parent, what kind of involvement you've had with budget.
Well, actually, at the high school level, I think the budget process is more involved with the council. I've noticed that this year than the prior years, well, with other councils that I have been on. I think that the process of actually having the department heads and different teachers coming in and actually explaining what their needs are has been a tremendous help in finding out what those needs are and addressing those needs in any way that we can. I understand that the school committee may be looking at site-based line item budgeting, which really excites me. I think it's time finally that the individual sites have control of their own budget.
For people who don't understand that, laymen out there, I know you've been involved with budgets for, what does that mean? Site-based line item attention.
Well, if you, I guess you need to understand how the budget is set up a little bit. And each location, being a school itself, has a certain amount of dollars earmarked for it. And within those, within that total amount of dollars earmarked for that site are a number of line items in that budget. And I guess what that's going to mean is that each site will have control of that chunk and what line items those are going to go into. It doesn't mean that we're going to go out and say, okay, we need $500,000 for this program, so this is ours, let's do it. It's going to be more, here's a chunk of change, I think, to put in layman's terms. And we'll hopefully be able to control that more. Of course, I don't believe that this is going to involve any type of contract services or professional salaries, things like that, or buildings and grounds, but more the textbooks, the supplies, the copy, machine maintenance, things along that line, I'm sure.
And in fact, the Wakefield School Council has been very instrumental in supporting needs of teachers the last couple of years, and I know that the faculty and staff appreciate your involvement in that. Budget is one of the subcommittees of the High School Council. Another is a policy subcommittee that Jill Tapper serves on. And one of the major roles that the council gets involved in, as outlined in ed reform, is in fact rules and regulations, policy setting for the high school. You've served on the handbook committee, Jill. Could you share some of that experience?
Right. Well, the handbook committee, there was an established handbook in place, but we sit in the subcommittee and we revise and revamp the handbook with students and with teachers, and every year we've had to go to smaller print because sometimes we add more than we delete. But that's been, an interesting process.
Let me ask you both this question. All too often, I think, there's lip service paid to people getting involved, not just in schools, but in other forms of organizations, maybe a local government or a state government. Do you feel, as individuals, that you've made an impact, that the service that you give on the school council is making a difference to?
I think it is. I think more so than when the councils first were established. I think as time progresses, we're refining the process of how we're being involved and what types of things we're able to do. And yeah, all in all, I think we are able to make a difference.
The state outline for school councils says that these councils are not necessarily decision-making bodies, but advisory bodies to the principals of the schools. And this, of course, exists at all elementary and middle and high schools throughout the state. Jill, how do you feel? Do you feel that the time that you've spent has resulted in any kinds of change, any movement, any kind of appreciation in the sense of the time you've put in, that there has been a product?
Definitely. I've definitely seen, positive changes in the high school since I've been involved in the council. So I would say yes.
Where would you like to see Wakefield High School go? What kinds of things do you have on your mind as parents, as you view, and you have an opportunity as council people to see much more than the average parent does in coming to meetings and being on top of things that are proposed changes, et cetera. What kinds of things, Ted, what one major thrust as a parent and council member would you like to see the high school moving toward?
If I had one wish, I guess that would be to just have the high school have the ability to offer as many courses, as many opportunities as possible to all the students that attend the school, no matter what their interests are. Something that would be something that everybody could take advantage of, and just have their lives be better for it, in essence.
One of the things that's under discussion now and will be coming up in February and March is a review of the mission statement and the goals of the high school. Right now, the school committee is very busy working on developing a mission statement for elementary, then they'll move to middle, then we'll move to the high school. And one of the concerns that has been aired is in line with what you're talking about is are we as comprehensive in terms of our course offerings as the community would like? As you know, we've added 15 additional courses as we came in line with time and learning, and I was thrilled to be able to move us in that direction and, in fact, to create as many opportunities. Maybe there are more, but we're going to be asking the community to join us, and the school council will have a big role during those months in helping the school committee move in the direction of that everyone wants to see the school go. Jill, if there were one area, one thing that topped the wish list for you as a parent, as you view the high school, what would you like to see happen in the near future?
Well, actually, I would like to see the community service learning portion of ed reform develop to the point where more students can participate and see an operative program. And I don't know whether that will happen by the time I finish my term on the council, but hopefully I'll have a hand in working on that more closely this year.
And this is another interesting area that is part of our school improvement plan, which is a third area that school councils are directly involved in, which is in shaping really the future of the high school through what is called the school improvement plan, which is subject to review by the school council and the faculty and our students every year. This year, that has been postponed because of the school committee study, and we'll be working on that with the school committee come February and March. But in fact, one of our goals is the development of a viable community service program. There's a lot of feeling, and it is happening all over the country, that high schools are in fact requiring community service as a graduation requirement. Let me ask you both how you feel about that. Ted, would you support that?
Absolutely.
Community service requirement before a student could graduate?
To some degree, but yeah, I think that would only benefit the overall education of an individual, is to have that incentive to go out in the community and become part of it, because after they graduate, that's exactly what they're going to do. And the better they're prepared for it, the better they'll be.
Jill, I think we know where you're coming from. You've already stated your interest in it. And in fact, you will be attending, representing the parents and the school council, a statewide conference on community education, community service up in, this one's in Marlborough, later on this month. And by the way, let me mention to everyone, you may not know this, but Wakefield High School this year got an enormous amount of help from the state by receiving a $16,000 grant for community education that we were looking to give us that extra impetus this year, which allows us to send some members of the staff, some of our students will be going to that conference along with us. I'll be attending, and we are looking for ideas to implement community service learning. It's on my personal goal sheet with the superintendent to, by the end of this year, have a viable plan to put in place next year. I think there is some interest, and maybe when we start talking about the mission statement with the school committee and the council, we will probably get some idea of how the school committee feels about the incorporation in some fashion of community service. Schools are doing it in different fashions. Some are creating programs apart from their course offerings. We tend to be leaning on doing some community service through the actual courses that students are taking, and that seems to be the direction. We have a committee in the high school that will be working with the school council and ultimately with the school committee to put a proposal together to bring forth the first real community service, be it a graduation requirement or a program requirement for next year. So it's a pretty exciting prospect in and of itself. So those are really the three major aspects of school council. Again, if you are viewing this program, you're interested in getting involved with a group of tireless people, parents, teachers, students are elected by the student body to serve. In fact, the junior member will be elected next week. If you're watching this program on tape, which you are, we are taping this program on November 4th, and a week from now, the 2-year term for the junior member will be in place. and will be joining us also at the next meeting along with Mr. Infanto. So we are looking for a community representative to join these nice people to help us take additional strides in helping young people in Wakefield, and we would invite you to get involved with us. Please call me at the high school at 246-6440 if you're interested in becoming a community representative, or write to me at Wakefield High School, 60 Farm Street, Wakefield, and I'll be happy to get back to you. I want to thank you for being with me this morning. The time really flies by awfully quickly.
Thank you for
It
the opportunity.
doesn't go that far. And we'll see you at the next meeting and look forward to making additional improvements for all the young people of Wakefield. And thank you for your years of service. I look forward to a successful year this year. And thank you for being with us. We'll see you again in our next edition of Speaking with the Principal.